The forgotten room. It was a cold morning in Detroit. Outside the tall glass building of Vanguard Automotives, the wind howled through empty parking lots, rattling the flagpoles like they were whispering secrets. Inside, however, there was chaos. Engineers in suits paced nervously, voices echoing through the long corridors. A project that had consumed millions of dollars, 2 years of development, and the hopes of an entire company, had failed again. The prototype engine, codenamed Phoenix, sat in a sealed testing room, surrounded by exhausted specialists, screens full of red error codes, and shattered pride. No one could figure out why it wouldn't start. They had flown in talent from Europe, hired consultants, even involved AI systems, but nothing worked. Now, the CEO himself was flying in from Silicon Valley, and people were scared. In the middle of this storm, unnoticed by most, walked a quiet man in a black jacket and jeans. His beard was scruffy, his hair tied back casually, and he didn't carry a laptop or badge. He walked like he belonged there, yet no one had seen him before. He paused at the door to the engine room and stared through the glass. His eyes didn't blink. They just observed. A junior engineer noticed him and frowned. "Can I help you, sir?" The man turned slowly. His voice was gentle. "Hi. I'm here to take a look at Phoenix." "Are you from the diagnostics team?" the engineer asked, confused. "No," the man replied. "My name's Keanu." The engineer blinked, and then his mouth dropped open. "Wait, KeanuReeves." Before he could say more, the door behind them burst open. In walked Gregory Hale, the CEO, tall, rich, full of sharp suits and sharper words. He was surrounded by board members and press reps. His face was red with anger. "Who the hell let an actor into my lab?" Hale barked. Keanu didn't flinch. He stepped forward, eyes calm, voice quiet. "I didn't sneak in. I was invited." Hale scoffed. "By who?" "The ghost of Einstein." Keanu shrugged. "I got a letter from one of your founders. His name was Thomas Redding." The room went quiet. Even Hale paused. Thomas Redding had died 8 months ago. He was the heart behind Phoenix, a dreamer, a rebel, and a friend to many. He had once told his team that if anything ever went truly wrong, they should find the man who fixed my father's old motorcycle with a spoon and a shoelace. Keanu pulled out a folded, grease-stained letter. It was signed in Redding's handwriting. Hale took it, read it, and cursed under his breath. "This is real," he muttered. Someone whispered, "What do we do?" Hale looked at Keanu like he was a joke, a punchline. Then something changed in his eyes. A grin, a cruel kind of challenge. "Fine," he said. "You want to help fix it? Phoenix. That beast in there, not even NASA could figure it out." Keanu nodded once. "I'll try." The room laughed, quietly, mockingly, except for one person. Her name was Marie Redding, Thomas's daughter. She stepped forward, holding back tears. "Please," she said, "just try." Keanu gave her a small, warm smile. "I will, for the next 3 hours." Keanu sat alone in the engine room. No cameras, no phones. Just him, a notebook, and the machine. The engine was massive, part electric, part hydrogen-based, part something else entirely. Its parts were over-engineered. Wires like veins running across polished steel. Most people had tried to fix it through code or circuit. But Keanu didn't start there. He placed his hand on the metal, closed his eyes, listened. Marie stood outside, watching through the glass. She whispered, "Why is he touching it like that?" An old technician replied, "Because he's not fixing an engine. He's making peace with it." Keanu opened the panels one by one, traced each wire. He made small notes. Sometimes he hummed. Once, he even laughed softly to himself. Then, he did something strange. He removed 2 chips from the core processor and replaced them with analog parts, old, nearly obsolete parts. No one knew where he got them. When he came out, his hands were dirty, and his face was calm. "Try it now," he said. Hale laughed loudly. "Are you serious? You think that's gonna work?" Keanu nodded. Hale waved to the technician. "Fine. Hit it." The room held its breath. The lights flickered. The screens turned green. And Phoenix roared to life. People screamed. Some clapped. Some just stared. It wasn't just running. It was perfect. smooth, powerful, and stable. Hale looked stunned. How did you? Keanu wiped his hands on a towel. Your people were trying to teach it to think like a machine. But your friend Thomas, he built it to feel like a human. And then he walked out. But this was only the beginning. The offer behind the glass. After Keanu walked out of the testing room, the building didn't feel the same. Phoenix, the engine that haunted every engineer and drained the company's funds, was finally alive, running like a dream. But the silence outside the lab said something louder than applause. The people didn't know whether to cheer or question what just happened. CEO Gregory Hale stood stiffly with his arms crossed, eyes locked on Keanu as he calmly walked toward the exit. The crowd of employees and board members parted like a quiet. No one dared to stop him, except Marie. Wait, she called out, her voice shaking. Keanu paused, turned. His expression was peaceful, but something deep flickered in his eyes, like memories he hadn't spoken of in years. How did you know? She asked. About the analog parts, about the way the engine needed to feel, not just function. Keanu smiled softly. Because I've been broken before. Machines and people, they're not so different. Sometimes what we call failure is just misunderstood pain. Her breath caught. She wanted to ask more, but Hale stepped in. Hold on, Hale said sharply, straightening his tie. You're not just walking out after this. Keanu looked him in the eye. I wasn't expecting a parade. Hale forced a chuckle. I underestimated you, clearly, and that's rare. You pulled off a miracle. So I'm giving you a real offer now. Keanu tilted his head. I'm listening. Hale gestured toward the glass window behind them, where Phoenix still purred like a sleeping dragon. You clearly see something others don't. I want you here. Name your salary, your position. Hell, we'll build a department around you. Full freedom, full control. Keanu looked down at the ground for a moment, then raised his eyes again. Why? Because you fixed the unfixable, Hale replied. And because this company needs a new mind at the top. The room stirred. Whispers began to buzz. Some of Hale's own team looked stunned. Marie's eyes widened. You're offering him your seat, someone muttered. Hale nodded. I'm offering him a role beside me for now. Keanu smiled, slow and thoughtful. You want me to lead your team? Yes, Hale said. Co-head of innovation. From this moment, there was silence. Then, Keanu asked, can I tell you a story before I answer? Hale blinked. Sure. Keanu looked around the room. 25 years ago, I was living out of a motel in San Bernardino. No heater, no car. My motorcycle was broken down, and the repair shop said it couldn't be fixed. Too old, too damaged. But one night, I sat beside it, listened to the creaks, watched how it leaned, and I realized the frame wasn't the issue. The soul was tired. So I rebuilt it, not to ride again but to let it breathe again. His voice was gentle, yet every word carried weight. Double quotes sometimes, he continued. What you build isn't meant to be sold. It's meant to teach you who you are. Hale frowned. So is that a no? Keanu replied. It's not a no, but it's not a yes yet. Marie stepped closer. Then what is it? Keanu looked at her. I'll stay for a week. Show your team what I did. If they can understand it, not just copy it, then maybe this company is ready for something bigger than profit. Hale didn't like the answer, but the board members whispered among themselves, and Marie nodded. We agree. So the next day, Keanu showed up not as a superstar, but as a teacher. He wore the same black jacket, no badge, no tie, just his notebook and a calm energy that made people want to listen. He gathered the junior engineers and said, forget the code for a moment. Tell me what Phoenix sounds like when it breathes. They looked confused. But slowly, over the week, something changed. He taught them how to feel machines, not just fix them. He taught them how to see the story behind broken circuits. Every engine tells you how it wants to live, he said on day 3. You just have to listen like you would to a friend in pain. But not everyone was pleased. Some senior engineers felt threatened. One of them, Marcus Hill, was especially angry. He's not even qualified, Marcus snapped behind closed doors. He's an actor. He shouldn't be near our systems, another man replied. He fixed what you couldn't in 2 years, with a trick, Marcus hissed. I bet it won't last. On the final day of Keanu's 1-week stay, a secret meeting happened behind his back. Marcus and 2 others planned to prove that Keanu's fix was a gimmick. They altered the engine's software code, just slightly, enough to cause a failure. During the next stress test, their goal, humiliate him. But they didn't know Keanu had checked the error logs the night before, and he had already noticed the unauthorized changes. On the day of the test, the whole team gathered. Marie stood beside Keanu, nervous. Hale stood in front of cameras, ready to make a public announcement if Phoenix succeeded again. Begin test, the technician said. Keanu raised a hand. Wait. All eyes turned to him. Before we run it, he said calmly, I want to show you something. He walked to the main monitor, opened the code log, and highlighted the sabotage. Marcus went pale. Keanu didn't name him. He simply said, someone was afraid the engine would fail again, so they made sure it would. A tense silence followed. Keanu turned to the team. I don't blame the fear. I've felt it too. The fear that someone else might see something in 5 minutes. That took you 5 years to understand. But what matters is what we do with that fear. Marcus lowered his head. Keanu reinstalled the original code. Now, he said, let it breathe. The technician ran the test. Phoenix performed flawlessly, even better than before. The room erupted in quiet awe. Hale didn't speak. He simply stared at Keanu with something close to respect. And Keanu? He walked to the back of the room, picked up his old notebook, and said gently, I'm done here. Marie followed him. But you said you might stay. Keanu smiled. I never said I'd leave. But first, I want to take you somewhere. Where? To meet the man who taught me how to fix hearts, not just machines. The old mechanic's truth. Next morning, the air felt different, softer somehow. Marie stood outside Vanguard Automotives in a plain hoodie and jeans, waiting by the sidewalk like Keanu told her. A black motorcycle pulled up, sleek, vintage, but clearly cared for. Keanu lifted his helmet, smiling like an old friend, and handed her another helmet. Ready? He asked. She hesitated. You ride like this every day. It's not about the ride, he said gently. It's about remembering who you are before the noise. They rode out of the city, past traffic, past the billboards and factories, until the road narrowed into a quiet stretch of countryside. Trees leaned close, and birds cut across the sky like whispers of something free. Marie didn't speak much. She just watched the world blur past her, feeling something lift from her shoulders. After 2 hours, they arrived at a small, dusty repair shop. The sign read Joseph's Garage in faded red paint. It was quiet, humble, forgotten by time. Keanu parked the bike and nodded toward the shop. He's inside. Marie followed him in. The smell hit her first. Engine oil, old wood, and something that felt like memory. Tools hung neatly on the wall. A kettle whistled gently on a stove in the corner. And in the middle of it all, an old man sat at a workbench, polishing a cracked carburetor with careful hands. Joey, Keanu said warmly. The old man looked up. His eyes, though wrinkled by age, burned with clarity. You're late, he said with a chuckle. Coffee's been ready since 7. Keanu smiled. Had to wake the city first. Joey laughed, then noticed Marie. This her, Marie, stepped forward slowly. I'm Marie Redding. Your father had good hands, Joey said, but a better heart. That's what made his machines different. They sat. Joey poured them black coffee in mismatched mugs. The silence wasn't awkward, it was calm, like a pause in music that makes the next note matter more. Keanu finally spoke. Marie's company built Phoenix. Thomas helped design it. But now they need more than just a working engine. Joey nodded. They need purpose. Marie frowned. I don't understand. Joey leaned forward. Your father came to me once. Broke down. On the highway in the middle of a storm. His car was dead. Electronics fried. He was soaked to the bone. But he didn't ask me to fix it. He sat with me through the night and watched how I cleaned the spark plugs. How I listened to the engine, not just scanned it. He said he wanted to learn what schools couldn't teach. Marie's eyes filled with tears. Joey continued. Your father believed engines were like people. Not just wires and fuel. They needed patience, kindness, forgiveness. Keanu added quietly. That's why Phoenix kept failing. Not because of design, but because the team never believed it had a soul. Marie sat back, her heart raced. So what now? I'm just supposed to tell the board we need to teach kindness to a machine. Joey shook his head. You don't teach a company with words. You lead with example. Keanu reached into his jacket and pulled out a small, folded blueprint. This was Thomas's final design, he said. He never shared it, but he gave it to me. Double quotes. Marie opened it slowly. It wasn't just a schematic. It was a dream. It showed Phoenix, but bigger, integrated into an entire transport system, solar-powered hubs, self-healing parts, and handwritten in the corner were the words, "What if machines carried hope?" Not just people, Marie whispered. He was planning this all along. Keanu nodded. He believed in a world where machines didn't just move bodies, but moved hearts. Joey leaned back. You want to fix the world, Marie? Start by remembering what your father believed, not in engines, but in people. They stayed at the garage until sunset. Marie asked questions. Joey told stories. Keanu mostly listened, and when the stars blinked awake in the dark sky, Marie stood outside the shop and looked up. I forgot how quiet the world could be, she said softly. Keanu stood beside her. It's not quiet, he replied. You just stopped listening. They rode back in silence. But something in Marie had shifted. A new question had formed. Not about engines, not about failure, but about why we build it all. The next morning, at Vanguard, Marie entered the boardroom alone. Hale sat at the head, sipping espresso. The board waited. I have something to show you, Marie said. She placed the blueprint on the table. Hale leaned forward. What is this? My father's final dream, she replied. And the path this company needs to walk now. We already have Phoenix, one board member said. You have a spark, Marie replied, but you're missing the fire. Hale narrowed his eyes. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting we change direction, Marie said. Not just in product, in purpose. We don't just sell machines. We build trust. We build futures. And who will lead that? Hale asked mockingly. Marie looked him dead in the eye. I will. The room went silent. Then she added, with Keanu Reeves, not as a celebrity, but as the man who reminded us how to listen. Hale stood slowly. You're serious, more than ever. Hale's jaw clenched, but before he could speak, the room doors opened. Keanu walked in. He didn't wear a suit or carry a plan, just that old notebook again. And behind him was Joey. Hale looked furious. What is this? Keanu smiled. You said you wanted innovation. Well, here's the source. Joey stepped forward. I'm just an old mechanic, but I taught the man who fixed the machine that none of your geniuses could understand. Maybe it's time you stop measuring intelligence with degrees and start measuring it with depth. Keanu placed his notebook on the table. Inside were hand-drawn diagrams, sketches, ideas built on human behavior, not just data. And written across the first page were Thomas Redding's words. The future isn't made by machines. It's made by the people brave enough to believe in them. The rebellion inside the boardroom. For a long moment, no one spoke. The room was silent except for the soft hum of the projector in the corner and the occasional creak of a chair. As someone shifted uncomfortably, the board members stared at Keanu's open notebook, confused by the simplicity and disturbed by its honesty. Marie stood tall beside it, hands steady, her father's blueprint still resting on the table. Joey, quiet but unshaken, waited behind Keanu like a silent guardian of wisdom. CEO Hale broke the silence. This is nonsense, he said, voice sharp. We're $1 billion company, not some emotional support group for old mechanics and dreamers. A few board members nodded, almost out of habit, but others looked hesitant, uncertain, unsure whether to follow power or principle. Marie didn't flinch. You're wrong, she said. You talk about billions, but we just spent 2 years trying to fix a machine that couldn't breathe until someone reminded us. It was built by humans for humans. Hale scoffed. And now, what? You want us to tear down our structure, our roadmap, and hand everything over to an actor with a notebook and a story? Keanu stepped forward. No, he said softly. I don't want anything handed to me. But I'm offering you something no algorithm ever will. A chance to rebuild this company not from the top down, but from the heart out. Hale's face darkened. This company has a hierarchy, and I sit at the top of it. Joey chuckled lightly from the back of the room. You sit at the top of something that's already sinking. Hale turned to him sharply. What did you say? Joey took a step forward. You think success is numbers, titles, press, but let me tell you something. I've seen more broken men wearing $1,000 suits than I have in all the junkyards I've worked in. You didn't even hear the engine when it roared to life. You only saw your stock price. A ripple went through the room. Marie spoke again. We don't need to destroy Vanguard, but we do need to restore it, its soul, its direction. My father built Phoenix for more than market value. He built it to start a movement. Hale slammed his hand on the table. Enough of this. This is not how leadership works. You want to be inspired. Watch a TED Talk. We make products. We make money. Keanu met his eyes. Then maybe you don't belong here anymore. Hale froze. The words hit the room like thunder. Quiet but shaking everything. What did you just say? Hale asked slowly. Keanu didn't raise his voice. I said maybe leadership isn't about controlling everything. Maybe it's about stepping back when someone else is ready to lead forward. You want to take my place? Hale hissed. Keanu shook his head. I don't need a title, but Marie, she's ready. Everyone turned to her. The room held its breath. Hale stared at her. You think you can run this company? Marie nodded once. No, I know I can. Because I remember why it was started. Not for quarterly gains, but for lasting change. Hale looked to the board. You're really considering this? The oldest member, a quiet woman named Vera Lynn, who had known Thomas Redding from the very beginning, spoke. We never voted on the direction of Phoenix, she said. We handed it over to you. We lost our way. Maybe it's time we listened to the voice that never forgot Thomas's vision. Hale's jaw tightened. I built this company to its current scale. Joey leaned forward. And now it's too big for you to hear its heart. The board murmured. A motion was called. Vote. Every hand rose one by one. In favor of Marie Redding taking leadership of the innovation division, and later, the company. Hale was stunned, speechless. He dropped his espresso, the cup shattering on the ground. Marie walked to him, not angry, not smug, but firm. I'm not here to erase you. I'm here to restore what was forgotten. You can be part of that, or not, your choice. Hale said nothing. He left the room quietly, the power he held so tightly now slipping through his fingers like sand. Marie turned back to the board. We have work to do. Keanu smiled. Now the real test begins. In the weeks that followed, the energy inside Vanguard changed. The labs were reopened to everyone, not just the elite. Teams from manufacturing, marketing, and even janitorial staff were invited to Phoenix demonstrations. Keanu held open sessions where people shared ideas without fear, sketches, thoughts, feelings. No one was laughed at, and the company grew stronger. Phoenix wasn't just a product anymore. It was a movement, a symbol of human-machine harmony. It didn't promise speed or power alone, it promised hope. And then, something unexpected happened. A letter arrived. Marie read it aloud to the team, to whom it may concern. I've watched your progress, your rebirth. I was wrong to doubt the heart behind the machine. I stepped down from my controlling shares, effective immediately. May Vanguard rise again with vision, not just ambition. Thomas Hale. It was signed by Hale himself. Marie lowered the letter slowly. Her eyes shimmered. Keanu stood behind her. He listened. He said, maybe not to us, but finally to himself. That night, the company held a small ceremony. Nothing fancy. No press. Just employees and families. They gathered around the first fully finished Phoenix vehicle ready to go into production. Marie stepped up to the microphone. This machine isn't just a new model. It's proof that we can still build. With heart, she looked at Keanu. And some of us never stopped. Keanu nodded quietly, stepping back into the crowd. He never liked the spotlight. As the first Phoenix prototype rolled onto the stage, the crowd clapped not because it was shiny or fast, but because it meant something. Joey leaned beside Keanu. Proud of you, kid. Keanu smiled. Nah, I'm proud of them. But deep in the crowd, A figure stood watching. Arms crossed, face hidden by shadow. Someone who didn't clap. Someone who had their own plans. The man in the shadows. The evening was full of light and laughter. Employees hugged one another. Children ran through the open doors of the innovation lab. And soft music played in the background as the first Phoenix prototype stood proud. Under soft golden spotlights, it was more than just an engine. It was a symbol, a memory come alive. Marie stood tall in the crowd, smiling for the first time in weeks. Keanu sat quietly on the edge of the stage, watching the joy around him like a man who had finally exhaled after holding his breath for too long. But not everyone was celebrating. Across the lot, hidden behind a column near the garage entrance, a man watched with narrowed eyes. His jaw was clenched, and his phone buzzed silently in his coat pocket. He didn't flinch, just stared, calculating. His name was Damon Kern, former vice president of global strategy, the one who had been quietly removed when Marie began reshaping the board. On paper, he'd resigned to pursue personal ventures, but in truth, he had been pushed out, and he didn't take betrayal lightly. He turned and walked into the night, pulling out his phone. He made a single call. Move forward, he said. Phase 1. The next morning, the Phoenix lab smelled like fresh polish and morning coffee. Marie was in the middle of reviewing final test results when an engineer ran in, out of breath. We've got a breach, he said. The backup drive is missing. Someone accessed the core source code. Keanu looked up from his notebook. How's that possible? They didn't go through the front, the engineer replied. They used admin-level clearance, but not from our current team. Marie's eyes narrowed. Hale? The engineer shook his head. It was Damon Kern. Marie's heart dropped. She turned to Keanu. He was in charge of risk systems before my father passed. He knew how to bypass security. But why would he steal the source code? Keanu's expression darkened. Because Phoenix isn't just a machine anymore. It's a message. And some people don't want messages. They want control. Hours later, a press release hit the internet like wildfire, introducing Firefly Dynamics, Phoenix, reimagined. Now under new leadership, a new company had appeared overnight. The design, an almost identical replica of Phoenix minus the soul. Sharp edges, polished steel. No mention of Thomas Redding. No mention of Marie. No mention of the team. Just a bold claim. The future of transportation begins with Firefly. Keanu stared at the screen. He cloned it. Marie was shaking. He took everything we built and twisted it. Joey spoke up from behind them. No, he didn't take what mattered. What do you mean? Marie asked. He took the shell, Joey said. But the spirit, that's still here. Keanu closed his notebook. We need to act. Not in panic but in truth. The next few days were chaos. Firefly launched a massive campaign across news, tech blogs, and social media. Their flashy website, their investor list, and even celebrity endorsements poured in like a flood. They had more funding, more reach, and more aggression. But they didn't have meaning. Keanu and Marie didn't respond publicly at first. Instead, they went back to the roots. They opened Phoenix's code to select universities and independent engineers around the world. They held livestream Q&A sessions explaining not just how Phoenix ran but why it was built that way. They didn't market. They taught. They didn't shout. They listened. One evening, a teenage girl from India uploaded a video. In it, she used an open-source model of Phoenix's engine to build a small, clean water pump for her village. It's more than transport, she said in the video. It's hope. The video went viral. Days later, a paraplegic mechanic from Argentina used the design to build a motorized wheelchair that responded to emotional cues. And slowly, something happened. The world stopped looking at specs and started looking at stories. Marie stood in the studio office with Keanu, watching. A digital map where thousands of red dots lit up communities, adapting Phoenix into schools, farms, hospitals. This wasn't in the plan, she whispered. No, Keanu said, but it was in the purpose. But Damon Kern wasn't finished. In a private meeting with investors, he slammed a tablet onto the table. We need to shut them down. They're poisoning our brand with this kindness nonsense. An executive frowned. But people are listening to them. The stories are getting more attention than our ad campaigns. That's the problem. Damon snapped. They're making us look like villains in a movie. He stood and paced. I want a lawsuit drafted by morning. Claim patent theft. I want their funding pulled. I want Marie Redding humiliated. But one of the executives leaned forward slowly. What if we're on the wrong side of this? The room went cold. Excuse me, Damon hissed. The executive sighed. Look around. People don't want more tech giants. They want meaning. Marie's team has that. You're trying to kill something that's alive. Damon's voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. Then maybe you shouldn't be at this table. The man stood and walked out. And for the first time, Damon felt the weight of fear. Back at Vanguard, Marie held a town hall meeting. Every worker, every cleaner, every intern stood shoulder to shoulder in the factory. Marie took the stage. We're not here to fight Firefly with anger. We're here to rise with purpose. If you're with me not just to protect a machine, but to protect an idea, then stand with me now. No one sat down. Even Joey, holding his old wrench, raised it in the air. Keanu whispered to Marie, this is your father's dream. Multiplied. But deep inside, he knew something darker was coming, because people like Damon didn't lose quietly. And the next hit wouldn't be legal. It would be personal. Asterisk. The final spark. The morning fell to quiet. Keanu stood by the window in the top-floor lab, staring out across the Vanguard compound. Fog clung to the buildings like it was trying to hide something. Marie walked in with 2 cups of coffee and handed him one without a word. Their eyes met. Both of them could feel it today would be different. The email arrived at 7:13 a.m. Subject, emergency recall. Phoenix prototype under federal investigation. Mary's face went pale. No, attached was a formal government document. Firefly Dynamics had filed a national safety report claiming Phoenix's core had a critical flaw that posed life-threatening risk during operation. Within minutes, the media picked it up. Phoenix recall. Unsafe by design. News anchors ran stories with flashing red banners. Investors backed away. Suppliers froze shipments. All overnight. Keanu scanned the report calmly. They fabricated this. They got to someone inside. Marie said, her voice shaking. No, Keanu replied. This wasn't a hack. This was planted months ago. Marie looked confused. How could they plan this before Phoenix even launched? Joey entered, holding a file. They didn't plan it before. They planned it the moment your father died. He dropped a folder on the table. It was full of signed approvals, old engineering drafts from before Marie took over. One line stood out. Authorized override access. Damon Kern. Keanu single quotes S jaw clenched. He put a vulnerability in the engine before it was even built. A sleeping virus, Joey said. Waiting to be triggered. Marie grabbed the file and whispered. He used my father's trust against us. That evening, Keanu called a press conference. It wasn't flashy, no stage, no logos. Just a wooden podium in the center of the Phoenix testing room. Behind him stood Marie, Joey, and every single Vanguard engineer. My name is KeanuReeves, he said into the mic, his voice steady. You know me from films, but today I'm speaking not as an actor, but as a builder. He held up a worn-out circuit board. This is part of the first Phoenix test model. The one everyone said couldn't work. We made it work not with money, but with soul. He paused. We've been accused of building something unsafe, something dangerous, and today, I'm here to prove the truth. A technician wheeled in the original Phoenix prototype, the one that hadn't been altered, the one that still breathed like it had a heart. Keanu walked toward it, then pulled out a wire exposing the vulnerable access line Damon had created. He held it up to the camera. This wasn't part of Phoenix, he said. This was part of a man's ambition to control something that belonged to the world. He turned and snapped the wire in two, and that ends today. The video went viral. Within hours, independent engineers across the world reviewed Phoenix's public code and confirmed the truth. There was no flaw in the original design. The risk was introduced after Damon gained control of the stolen copy. Even former Firefly employees came forward. Leaked emails exposed Damon's plan to sabotage Phoenix's name. The pressure grew. 3 days later, Firefly's offices were raided. Damon Kern was arrested for corporate fraud, data theft, and endangering public safety. His mugshot appeared across every screen. But Keanu didn't gloat, and Marie didn't celebrate. They simply got back to work. Months passed. Phoenix became more than a vehicle. It became a movement of people building with meaning. Hospitals used its power systems. Villages used its recycled engines. Schools studied. It's designed to teach both mechanics and ethics. Marie stood at a podium in front of a massive crowd at Vanguard's new global headquarters. She smiled. Phoenix was never about replacing people. It was about reminding them they still matter. She turned toward Keanu. And none of this would have happened without the man who showed us how to listen. The crowd applauded as Keanu stepped up. He looked shy, almost uncomfortable. "I didn't do this alone," he said. "This began with a letter from a friend, and with a broken machine that just needed to be heard." He paused, "But the truth is, I came here because I was broken, too." The crowd went quiet. I had lost faith in the world, in people, in what we build. "But your father," he turned to Marie, "he built something that gave me faith again." He smiled. "And now, I believe again." That night, under the stars, Marie and Keanu walked along the quiet test track behind the lab. She looked up. "You leaving tomorrow?" Keanu nodded. "There's a kid in Ohio who built a jet-powered bike out of Phoenix scrap parts. I want to meet him." Marie chuckled. "Of course you do." She stopped and faced him. "You changed everything." He shook his head gently. "You did. I just helped you remember." She hugged him. And for a moment, everything was still. No lights, no noise, just two souls who had saved something bigger than an engine. They had saved hope. Months later, a small note was found inside one of Keanu's old notebooks, tucked beneath the original Phoenix diagram. In Marie's handwriting, it simply read, "The world doesn't need more machines. It needs more reasons to believe." And that's exactly what they built.